talk a little bit. We've heard about the what, right? We've talked about carbon is the what, and we've talked about the why, which is climate change. I'm going to talk a little bit about the how. And the first thing I want to mention is nobody's expecting this to happen overnight, right? This is an evolution of sorts. I've also given us a head start. You'll see no crawling caterpillars. Everybody in this room has at least evolved to our pupa chrysalis stage, okay? We are now in the painful, transformative process of becoming beautiful, sustainable butterflies. But it is a process, and it does take leadership. Some of you may know of this leadership model that I'm showing here: direction, alignment, commitment. Those three things together create leadership. We know the direction we want to go in right now. Conferences like this create the alignment, and we're looking for commitment to move us forward. There's a real opportunity here for everybody to be a part of this change. There's many industries for us to follow already. We could point at the ground and look at carpet. We could point at the ceiling and look at where our ceiling manufacturers have gone, and the furniture that you're sitting in right now. There's a good chance, especially in a beautiful place that prioritizes beautiful lighting in their conference rooms, right, that they've probably thought a little bit about where we're headed there. But these industries have already carved a path for us. Don't worry too much about the small text. I'll talk you through it. This is the timeline of where we're at from a lighting standpoint. In 2012, architects and designers came together and wrote a letter saying, hey, we need some material transparency to manufacturers. Manufacturers heard that call, and LP50 was formed in 2018. Very inspiring to see manufacturers coming together saying, yeah, we do need to change a few things, and started on that journey. 2019, our architecture friends, thank you, signed the Materials Pledge, public launch saying these are the frameworks that we're going to start designing around, and put manufacturers and the construction industry on notice. And the lighting industry said, thank you, we can follow suit. And just in 2021, we wrote the lighting advocacy letter, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. 2022, that's us here today. There's a lot more options in terms of products with health product declarations. Declare labels, and just in the last 6 months we did see the lighting category rule, the product category rule that allows us to have EPDs being created around lighting products, which, as you can hear, the architects want them, the clients are looking for them, so of course the lighting community is paying attention. Hopefully 2 years from now, those EPDs will be very prevalent, and we'll be able to participate as a piece of the trade in life cycle analyses, and that's really what we're heading towards. So what's possible? Well, today, and in parentheses, I'm putting that as our low-hanging fruit, row house compliant fixtures. So if you're a QPL person looking for criteria, baseline criteria, we would love to see fixtures that comply with row house right away on there, because a lot of people can comply with that now. That's very much low-hanging fruit. HPD, Health Product Declaration. We're not really talking about human health as much as we're talking about climate health today, but this is also very low hanging fruit in terms of being able to just say what's in your products and whether or not they're going to have a health impact. Of course, designers are hopefully going to trend towards the ones that are going to say that they are healthy, but we can certainly follow suit and start creating HPDs now. Declare, we're in that zone. If you know about Declare, you know that there are 3 layers of Declare. It can be sort of self-certified and then third-party verified. We love that, and EPDs are the next step. And all of this, again, is pushing towards being a part of the life cycle analysis of a building. And instead of just looking at a point in time, our use, looking at what Alexander was talking about with the entire timeline. Oh, when I want to make a point, I should really lean into that. That's working well. Thanks, AV people. So boiling it down to what specifiers want, we would like transparency, right? We want labels and documentation telling us what's in the product, the process, the product itself, and the end of life. We'd like transparency there. Moving forward, what we're really looking for is products that are designed to have low carbon footprints, that are produced with sustainable humane practices and processes, and are, my favorite, readily available at affordable prices. But again, we know that this is not overnight. We're not expecting readily available and affordable overnight. But just like the example with LEDs, supply and demand are market forces that we're very well aware of. And when we start asking for things, things can change. There was a point in time when LEDs were new and expensive, and now it's kind of a bit of a joke to even say we're not going to have LEDs on a project, right? If you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of exactly what you'd like from the lighting specifier community, we have written a letter saying this is what we're looking for, and it does reference those different lenses, those 5 buckets that the AIA put together in their climate ask as well. So there's a strong mirror there. So again, why are we asking for EPDs, HPDs, declare labels, and other documentation? They're accepted and prevalent in other trades, so we do not have to sharpen our machetes and bushwhack. We are just following along the trail that others have already made for us. So if you want to know what to do, go check out what they've done in these other trades. There's an established process, and as my colleagues have said, it creates a baseline for us to start looking at what can be improved upon and how can we start to measure things differently, right? Just one more plug for third-party verification. It's awesome to say, hey, I did this, but it's even better when somebody says, hey, they did this, and I can certify it, because then, of course, we can trust it just a little bit more. So great first step to do your own, excellent step to take it further and get verified by a third party. So for you manufacturers out there, there are a few things you can be doing in just about every step of your process. I would say the number one thing to do is to educate yourself and your team about what's going on here. The fact that you're sitting in this room is awesome. The fact that you made it to the end of the day is extra awesome. I'm gonna let you go pretty soon. But education is really one of the most important things that we can do. So from the product designers to your manufacturing team to your vendors and suppliers, letting them know that this is coming for them and that's what we need, that helps to make that change happen. Your existing products, your new products, if you start with these tenets in mind, reverse engineer backwards, how can we be doing things like making the product smaller, needing fewer materials, fitting more on a pallet so there's less shipping, less carbon emissions in that entire process. One little anecdote I'll share: when we talked to the one person that's made an HPD in the lighting industry, JLC Tech, and we talked about their process, and they said, you know, the product, if you're familiar with it, it's a T-bar clip light, very, very small to begin with. But what they learned was, by their packaging and the way that they could change the recycled content and everything else that they were doing, there wasn't a ton that they could change in the materials of the product themselves, but they could make a huge dent in terms of packaging and shipping, which, as we know, is a big piece of the carbon footprint as well. So any place that you want to start, we would encourage, and we'd be happy to say the name of your company up here when we're talking about the leaders. So that's certainly one thing you can do. Continuing to educate yourself in other ways, and I'll just plug that Alexandra and I will be doing another presentation together on October 18th, which is a follow-up of one that we gave to the lighting community about this topic, and now we're going to be following up with some lessons learned about people that are putting things in practice. So that's going to be hosted by Mindful Materials, so if you want to join us, please feel free. And before I say where you go, I'm going to ask everybody to just pause for 1 second, and if you can remember nothing for the entire presentation that I'm giving at least, I would like to say to you that baby steps count. That it doesn't matter if, what is it? Is Winston Churchill, I think, that said that progress is the enemy of perfection. I think maybe Voltaire said something very similar, and somebody else said perfect is the opposite of good or something like that. But the point is, we don't have to be perfect overnight. What we need to do is start. Right? So everybody, as we've talked about, has a lever to pull in the process. If you're sitting on a committee making choices about whether incentives are to be given, we can talk about that. If you're a designer making choices, if you're an owner making choices, if you're a manufacturer producing these things, there's a lot of places that you can start. And so most important thing in my talk is that baby steps count, and we can totally start at any spot. If you're a lighting designer like me and you want to go find products that you can specify, because there certainly is a demand for it, I definitely think there's a business case for you manufacturers at this exciting point in time to say, hey, we're doing it, we're green, please let us be a part of what you're doing. Here's a couple places that we're going. Maybe we need to add Luminaire Broker 0 up to there, whatever those tools are, but as you can see, they're growing. I'll plug a little bit Light AZ right now. As specifiers, we said, hey, you have a search tool. Can you help us by just making a row house button? Because that would really help us. And they were able to do that fairly quickly. So again, asking and making the change by kind of communication and education is one of the biggest things we can do. These are just 3 search tools. There's tons of other resources. I'll point to the lighting toolkit that we've put together as a follow-up of the presentation I mentioned before. Those that have written and signed the lighting advocacy letter, a bunch of us have put together information about how to be as sustainable as you can and all the different lenses and points towards many other resources. So if you're interested, you can certainly head there. That's, again, hosted on the Mindful Materials website. And the last thing I just want to reinforce is that this is kind of like the beginning of the journey, and you guys are all here on the train with us and pulling out of the pupa stage. It's very exciting, and honestly, there's a great business case for it. We have companies that have given us time to come here and evangelize and talk about what's really important to us. We're speaking on behalf of a lot of clients as well. This is coming for the lighting industry, whether or not we want it, because that's the necessity that's out there. The 1% reduction that we need isn't a huge amount. It's actually kind of a very doable lift if we work together. And I think I can say for myself, and hopefully the rest of this panel, that it's very exciting to be a part of the wave. So with that, I will say thank you for the time and give it to Tina to do Q&A.